Welcome, beautiful mothers, to another episode of The Authentic Mom. And today we have a special guest, Maha Musa. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so happy to have this conversation with you.
Hi, Yahav. Thank you. Great to see you again. And thank you to everybody who's joined or who watches the replay. It's lovely to be here.
So I actually met Maha through my sister.
Mm.
She sent me, and I won't forget it. It was after my first child, preparing myself to my second birth, and I really wanted to have the natural birth of my dream. And my sister sent me that CD, Dance of the Womb, and she
Mm.
told me you have to practice it. And I put it in my computer and I start practicing, and it was such a blessing. I felt so good with the movement, listening to what you were saying and the way you saw birthing. So I'll give you a bit of background for Maha because she's more than just a belly dancer. So she is the author of Dance of the Womb, a book and a CD that you can purchase. Yeah, it's beautiful. I'm like highly recommending it. I think it was one of the things that changed my birth experience. She has the signature childbirth education called Embody Birth and Belly Dance Birth. She's an international speaker and she won an award of Birth Hero National Award. Amazing. That's an amazing achievement. So tell us, Maha, what drive you to make all of this happen?
The birth of my children, that doorway opened. So, I'm of Palestinian Lebanese background and I came to Australia when I was 2 years of age. My mother was Lebanese Christian, my father Palestinian Muslim, and they
Mhm.
separated when I was a baby and my brother was 2.5. So my dad brought us to Australia, unbeknown to our mother, our Lebanese mother. So I arrived in 1964, and
Mhm.
Australia was very different in those years as a 2-year-old, yeah, without my mum and my brother and my father. So, I was 7 years without a mother. I was at boarding school at 4 years of age in Victoria. And then my father married my stepmother, my Australian stepmother, when I was 7. So
Mm.
I was always, I say, I was in between worlds, East meets West.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and being disconnected from my mother, I say my motherland, my mother tongue, the mother within myself. And then, of course, my Palestinian roots, being refugee and losing everything on the Palestinian side. So I always felt like I was sort of this lost child wandering. And then, having grown up, and I went back to the Middle East when I was 21. I went back to Jordan to visit my Palestinian family, and I really connected with the women and the dance and that real Arab Middle Eastern sisterhood that I had never experienced in Australia. And
Mhm.
there was a sense of belonging, that I belonged somewhere to this ancient lineage that I'd never felt, around me in Australia. I did used to connect very much to the Indigenous culture here,
Mhm.
but there was a sense of, yes, I've come home. I belong somewhere. And then when I was 32, I found my mother in Lebanon as well, which was an incredible story. And it's all in my book, Dance of the Womb. And I went to Lebanon to meet my mum for the first time. And I was 33, she was 67, and I'd never had children. I couldn't get pregnant. I was 5 years unable to get pregnant in my first marriage. But I knew deep down that it wasn't just a medical pathology or something that was wrong with me, polycystic ovaries. I knew there was something causing that, something deeper, which was that still not bringing together that sense of belonging because of not being with my mother. And when I went to Lebanon to meet her for the first time, it was an amazing meeting. You can imagine, after nearly
Oh.
33 years. Yeah. And she didn't know where we were, where we'd been taken, where we'd grown up, nothing, which really was devastating. You know, now as a mother of 3 children, I understand, my goodness, how must have that felt? Just have 2 babies ripped away, you know. So there's a lot of trauma in that lineage. And after meeting my mum, it was a beautiful meeting. And when I got back to Australia, I was now with a second partner. I actually got pregnant 6 months after meeting her. And
Wow.
yeah, and I knew that it was because of that disconnect from that.
That's such a beautiful closure.
Yeah, yeah, it was beautiful. And also that, you know, I'd done the work, like I knew there was something that needed to be repaired. I
Mm.
could feel that psychically and in the somatic nature of being in my body. Something wasn't sitting right. And of course, all that trauma. And then meeting my mum, it was like I could just sit back into my body. And that sense of belonging that I felt in Jordan with my Palestinian roots was
Mhm.
closed. The closure came with my mother. And it was like I was whole again. And I
Mhm.
say, ready to receive the seed of my partner. Because I think sometimes we force trying to get pregnant. You know, we dearly want it like I did. Sometimes we need to excavate more deeply into the womb spaces and be very honest about what it is that we truly do need, which is often about coming back to ourselves to
Yeah.
repair, you know. So I was very lucky, Yahav, in many ways that I actually got to meet my mum and find her, you
That's
know.
amazing. How did you
She's
manage
amazing.
to find her? Did you receive any help?
Yes, and it's in my book. I won't go into it. So if you want to know the rest of the story, my
Go
book,
and buy
go
it.
and buy it. It's an ebook as well on my website or a hard copy. But yeah, all my story is woven through my book. So
Mhm.
this is another very important thing is that when I wrote my book, Dance of the Womb, which was all the belly dance birth movements for birthing, I didn't just want to write a book on movements like physical movements. I
Mm.
wanted to incorporate and weave into my story the story of my life and those connections and the healing and the repair. So other women could also reflect on their own story and the places that they needed to heal because we can't separate body, mind, heart, spirit. That's a Western thing to cut off the mind and the head and to
Mhm.
stay in the intellect and then take drugs or pharmaceuticals to try to repair. But it's in the body. The body carries the medicine.
Beautiful thing is that when you're starting to think about it as mind, body, spirit, and you're understanding that they need to
Mm-hmm.
work together in order for you to birth your baby, in order for you to
Yes.
care for your baby, in order for you to even fall pregnant,
Yes.
then you're starting to feel more whole.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So we look, we externalize the care in many ways. So,
Mhm.
you know, the medical industry, as I call it, has taken over this deep excavation that we must do as women because we're looking for the quick fix. And I understand that. We are living in a world now of quick fixes,
Mhm.
but that doesn't help you on this longer journey of bringing your children into the world and creating a family, a community, a society, a global consciousness, which is the work I do around birth. How do we raise global consciousness through the way we birth? But that's for another story. We might come back to that. So, you know, when I got pregnant with my first son, and I was amazed because I'd never been pregnant before, and I
Mhm.
was like, wow, this psychic and physical and emotional and energetic, sexual, sensual, spiritual, sacred body is dancing within me to bring him into the world. And I was living in Byron Bay at the time. Many of
Mhm.
you listeners might know Byron Bay, a very special place, which in 1996 we had a beautiful pregnancy support group that was on every week. There was, I'm not kidding, 40 to 50 people would come, couples would come. It was amazing. And midwives would come. And there would normally be, and I tell this story, maybe 12 to 15 home birth midwives would come to the Byron Pregnancy Support Group. So you would be supported in the physiological, natural way of birth. because Byron Bay really was the place of home birth in Australia.
Mm.
It was this progressive place, connection to the land, the indigenous culture, the Bunjalung, the tea tree lakes, the Aboriginal women's birthing place. So Byron Bay has that, and that sense of fertility, that lush, open, connected, earthy place. So this pregnancy group was beautiful, and we could interview the midwives as the mothers. So we
So
could look
was
at,
it a meetup between moms that were pregnant with
yes,
health professionals?
yeah, like midwives. And a lot of them were not, were lay midwives. They weren't even trained midwives, or as we say now, many midwives.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful midwives we have, but more and more now leaning towards midwives, medical with woman support. So at that time, it was sort of lay midwives, midwives who knew how to birth twins at home and
Mm.
birth breech babies at home,
Yeah.
just incredible
You
midwives.
had that inner intuition of how to
Yes,
help you and be there for you and support
yes,
you.
yes. More in that earthy, as you say, the natural, physiological, uninterrupted way of birth, understanding physiology deeply.
Mm.
What is as nature intends birthing? Why do we have nature intends birthing? We are made to birth our babies. And, in embodied birth, I talk about the womb wisdom. That blueprint of birth lives inside every woman. But are we being distracted away from our inner resource with our baby?
Do we
So this
trust
is,
ourselves?
we trust ourselves. What does it mean to trust ourselves, actually?
Mm.
What does it even mean? Trust yourself. It's an embodied somatic practice of trust and truthfulness as well. Where am I not trusting myself? Why am I not? So there's so many layers to this conception pregnancy story, and that's really in the Byron pregnancy support group with these midwives. We would go deeply into our stories, or
Mm.
as I say, the mystery of birth, my story. What is supposed to be for me, my story with my baby, that healing of the lineage. That is what birth gives us an opportunity to do. It's
It's
part
beautiful because when you're
natural.
saying it, I'm
Yes.
remembering that in each one of my births, and I had three like you, um, right in the transition stage, there
Mm-hmm.
was those fears and the things that came from my lineage. And when I managed to overcome them, and each time it was something different, then the birth that unfolded was the birth that I wanted. It was natural, it was quick, it was easy, even to the extent that with my third child, I managed to birth her with no tear, nothing. It was just like the birth I always saw and dreamed of, you know?
Beautiful. And that's I think why we go through that transition portal. And see, this is the problem that I talk about in birth is that women get robbed of the experience. So we interfere into a dynamic process that's unfolding before
Mhm.
it's had a chance to unfold. Women are having intervention even before they go into labor,
Yeah.
you know, to get the labor started. For what purpose is that? So she hasn't even stepped through the first doorway, and already that intervention that leads to that cascade of
And
interventions.
most of the time when I meeting those mothers in the postpartum period, they telling me
Yes,
that it was too much to handle.
yes,
The surges in their body was just too much,
that's right.
and they couldn't enjoy the process of birthing their baby.
So that lack of patience leads to the lack of integration for the mother through the process that she's meant to have. So, it's psychically the body is opening, as you say, in the transition is the point of real opening, energetic opening, emotional, psychic. And that is where we go into the delta brain waves, deep, deep down. And that is where, in that unconscious place, the repair begins and the healing begins. you have to get to that place
Yeah,
where you totally surrender. You can't now be in the intellect.
that's the key, to
That's the key.
totally surrender.
Yes. And most women now, I'd say 95% of women haven't touched that place of surrender because we put the barrier of fear in front of them.
Mm.
And now, I've been teaching nearly 30 years. I'm 62 years of age. So I've come from, what I was talking about, the Byron Bay, etc., and now swung the whole other way, that fear, as I say in Embody Birth, steps before your intuition, your instincts, your processing, your integration, any of that. It's just fear. There's just this block of fear in front of women. And so I work with women a lot around the processes of fear. And it's a shame. It's a real shame. And women know in the postpartum time, even if they can't put their finger on what it is,
Mm.
they've been robbed of the experience. And there's a
Yeah.
deep grief and sadness and trauma, let alone all of the violence or, interventions or coercion or any of those things that have happened. Just the mere fact that I've been robbed.
Yeah, it's interesting you saying it because I just met a mother and she shared with me that it was her first birth and she felt during her pregnancy like she always needed to move, like her child wanted her to move. And when she got to the actual birth, the people that were there with her didn't want her or believe in movement while she birthing her baby. So they were more in the idea that you should lie in bed, things will come along, then they will lift your legs, then you push, just like we see in the movies, yeah? And she said to me, Yahav, I felt like I needed to move,
Mm-hmm.
but the people with me they put me into that connecting to that machine and being like I couldn't move. I had the monitor on me. I had all these things. And I ended up in an emergency cesarean. But I know, she said, that my next birth will be with movement because I had a strong feeling inside that this is the way I'm birthing my babies. And it was just like you said, that intuition
Mm-hmm.
was somewhere put aside because when you're birthing your baby for the first time, especially, and you don't know what does it mean to birth your baby, because you never experienced it before, you have all this fear of what if I'm doing it wrong? What if they right? What if I'm supposed to trust them? They know what they're doing. They are the professional. They did it so many times. And then you're not trusting fully in yourself and your intuitions.
That's exactly right, because we are externalizing the expertise of birth to the other, to the professional. We have been entrained to believe with this narrative that is getting stronger and stronger. We're moving so far away from as nature intends that women are believing that something is wrong with their body. But
Yeah.
her instincts and her intuition were telling her otherwise. Where you birth is very crucial as well.
Yeah.
You
The
find out
surrounding, the
the
environment,
environment.
the
Yes,
people that they're with you.
yes, yes. So you can work on yourself and do a lot of work on yourself. But if you place yourself in an environment that's not supportive of that, then you might get into trouble. So
Yeah.
really thinking about, where am I placing myself and my baby for this experience that is a rite of passage experience. I mean, I have a saying, and everybody loves it as well, is that if you were going to go on an LSD trip with someone and take LSD, who would you take with you? Who would you completely feel safe and trusting to walk with you? And I say that's the person to birth with. That's the
Yeah.
environment, that feeling of safety.
I think that safety is the key because many mothers, when I'm talking with them in the postpartum, and we kind of like processing the birth experience and what they felt, what they went through, how it unfolded, then they realizing that one of the thing was they didn't feel safe.
No,
They didn't feel heard.
that's
They
right.
didn't feel like people trust what they saying, that it's the right thing for them. And I'm always telling them, for your next birth,
Yeah,
you are the one that's making the decisions. You are the one that know what best for you. And of course, if there is, any emergency or something is wrong, you will feel it.
that's right.
And I'm meeting many moms that saying to me, I asked for the emergency cesarean because I felt like something is not going to the right place. And then after in the postpartum, it's easier to deal with all the emotional state, what you're going through, and to heal yourself because it's a time of healing and recovering.
Mm, mm,
Now, tell me, Ma,
mm.
why is it so important to move when we're birthing our babies?
Well, as you know, I'm the founder of Belly Dance Birth. So a lot of people think, first of all, that it's belly dancing like cabaret and performance dance, but it's not that. It's the gentle, earthy movements of Middle Eastern dance, my ancestral dance. So, as I say, every woman has within her a dance. So it's that instinctive, intuitive movement. Belly dance birth is a powerful modality from my matriarchal cultural roots that is not just a physical exercise, but it is an anchor and a guide harnessing the universal and symbolic message of instinctive birth truth that all women carry, which is known as womb wisdom. And it carries its own language, its own dialect and expression, of which it speaks at a fundamental level, reminding us all women own their births and all women know birth. All women and babies know birth and birth knows you. And this cannot be taken away from you unless we allow it. And of course, if there is an emergency, we have to be mindful of that. So the dance of belly dance birth is an essential part of this language, as it is the collective blueprint of mother birth nature, as well as shining a light on our mammalian nature for birth. We are mammals. We are warm-blooded. We birth vaginally and we breastfeed. These are
Mhm.
mammary glands. So we are like all mammals. So that physiology is supported by dance and movement and being upright and using gravity. Our physiology is very powerful. The hormones of birth will guide us through the processing. Yeah. So the oxytocin and the endorphins are there to support you. So the movements of the dance will help you to meet that physiology, move with that physiology. So the dance of the womb opens the doorway into tapping into nature's rhythms and shapes. So when we dance the dance of the circle, the spiral, the figure eight, those wave-like motions, using our pelvis, our chest, our arms, and our hands. And it's also moving energy around the body too. So we're feeling that energy. We're feeling, where do I end? Where does someone else come into my energy space? Yes, so I am in control of that with my baby. So all of my body surrenders to these ancient movements. And these movements of nature are everywhere in the galaxies, in the plants, in the oceans, in flowers, in shells, all of those spirals, circular shapes. So we carry within us the memory of these eternal shapes. And that is what reminds us of our connection to the sacred, that maternal innate wisdom. And so, even if you go back to the Egyptian hieroglyphics, you'll see pictures of women upright, being held by other women, sitting on stones, always using gravity. They're not laying on their back. That
Mhm.
closes off the width and the opening of the pelvis. Yeah, yeah. They're always upright. So when you think in labor, oh, I just want to lie down and relax. And then the uterus contracts, and what we call contractions in body birth are expansions.
Mm.
Want to open to it. You want to meet those expansions, those rhythmic sensations. Yeah, so the uterus contracts, the cervix pulls up, builds the fundus, and my body is energetically, emotionally, psychically, physically opening, as is my baby opening to the experience with me. So we're creating room for the process of labor through using those movements. And many women, when they're left to their own devices, will access the dance of the womb. They will start moving in circles and spirals and figure-8 shapes. They will naturally do that. And then we add breath and sound and movement. We call that in embodied birth the trilogy: breath, sound, and movement. And so once you can tap in and get into that zone in active labor, you will be guided. Body, baby, wisdom will guide you as to where you need to be. And we need to trust in that guidance. That's why we do the dance in the prenatal time. So we get used to unlocking the body, feeling those waves and circles within the body, connecting to our baby, talking to baby. So you start to realize this is an experience of mother and baby at the center of the experience. That is our first principle of embodied birth. Mother and baby are at the center of the experience. We have a voice. We need help or guidance, or we have a question. There are resources for us. But the foundation is that I am at the center with my baby. And the dance will affirm that, embody that somatically for you. So we say in embodied birth, the baby doesn't come out of your head. The baby comes through your pelvis, womb, and out of your yoni, your vagina, get down to earth to birth. Yeah, it's not an intellectual experience. You cannot think birth. You have to feel birth.
Yes.
And you know, Yahav, I'll just let people know, I had my last baby at home at 46 years of age. And many people would say to me, oh my God, you're 46. Aren't you scared? Aren't you going to, book into the hospital? And I was like, I couldn't think of anything worse for me. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with her. My third baby, third natural birth. But it's like, no, people immediately have been, entrained with that narrative. I mean, the geriatric narrative is ridiculous over 35, 38 years of age.
Yeah.
And I get women, I'm counseling women a lot of the time in their 40, early 40s, so fearful because of their age. And it's like, you got pregnant.
I agree. My mom had me and my two little brother and sister when she was 38, 40, and 42. And all was natural, all
Yes.
was beautiful.
That's right. So the body's still the same. We've got the same body. Okay, we've got a lot of environmental influences now affecting fertility and conception. And let's look at the man. That's another story too. It's not all on the woman, our fertility.
Of course.
But, we've got a lot more to contend with now. So we have to be even more mindful. What am I putting into my body? What am I thinking? Who am I associating with? What is my vision? First, establish that foundation strongly within yourself. And what I was saying to you before, Yahav, is then when we go into the postnatal part of mothering, if we take that strength, that foundational strength with us, then we go through that portal much stronger, more confident. Doesn't mean there won't be challenges. There is, of course. But we know I can do this. I can get through this. As we say in embodied birth, birth through your fear, not in fear.
Yeah.
It will keep coming. My daughter's now 16. My boys are in their 20s. Postpartum is still going.
Still
It doesn't
going.
stop. Till the day I die on my deathbed. That strength that I've carried through also comes from my lineage. My Palestinian grandmother birthed 9 babies in our birthing house in Al Kubab, the domes. I drew on her strength, my paternal grandmother. And that is what we're meant to do as women, is
Mhm.
draw on the strength of each other. But now it seems many of us don't have
Separated.
strong, yeah, and we don't have strong women who've walked the path. That's why women love working with me, because they say, you've had natural births, the last at 46. You breastfed your daughter 8.5 years to natural term, a year post menopause. There aren't many women left of us who are fully walking this path
I agree. And you know
because,
what's beautiful is that both of us coming from a lineage of Arab countries. My mom is from Yemen, my dad is from Tunisia, and then both of them went to Israel, so I'm an Israeli. And it's beautiful because each one of them had a different experience of birth. My granny in Tunisia had 9 kids, and my granny in Yemen had 8.
yeah.
And it's beautiful because, they got married very young though, because back in the day it was different. But both of them put a tradition of nourishment in terms of the food and what you're eating and what you're putting and the spices that can help you as a medicine to heal, to take care of yourself, to handle what you're going through. I remember my granny drinking hot water with zingiber. And every day that was what she was doing. Then zingiber is ginger. And she didn't miss a day that she didn't do it. And she always said to me, that's what helps me to be like the horses, to be the strong woman that I have and that I am. And it's a beautiful tradition because in each one of us, there is this heritage.
Yes.
And this heritage is like it's stronger than us. And if we're really connecting to it, like you said, with the dance and the movement, and when you start dancing, I felt like dancing with you. And
Yes.
it's just that beautiful connection to the essence of who we are.
Yes.
And one of the things that I loved the most when I did your Dance of the Womb CD was the fact that it prepared me to birth, not just in the movement, but in the rhythm of birth. Because whoever doesn't, experience birth, if you're listening to us, birth is all about there is intensity and then there is quiet, and intensity and there is quiet. And during the movement in your CD, it was like, let's dance, let's do the movement, and then let's feel it. And let's do the movement and let's feel it. And that was,
Slowing down. Yeah.
yeah, and preparing you to the experience that you're going to have when you're birthing your baby. So, like you said, it's practicing that pattern.
We call that in embodied birth rhythm and stillness. So in rhythm, there is stillness. In
Mm.
stillness, there is still rhythm. So something is always moving. It's a subtle delicacy that birth shows us. And sometimes it's wild and raw and, yes, painful sensations. And then it retreats and we rest. But in that rest, there's still rhythm. And in the
Yeah,
rhythm, we find the stillness of can I connect to that so I don't get out of control. So that's again that breath, that sound, that movement. So that's why the dance is such a beautiful metaphor for birthing, because it encompasses so many aspects. It really does. And it's a body experience. Birth is a somatic experience of the body. And I think many women get shocked at how much the body goes through when we birth. We've never opened that portal. Yeah,
but it's huge. It's a
huge.
lot.
It's a lot to,
And
yeah,
it's a big process. And
yes.
you spoke about the intellect, and it's in a way of our like mind coming and talking with us when we actually need to be in the rhythm of the essence of the body.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finding that it's very challenging for many moms to deal with the mind when it's coming, and especially when you're in that process. What are the tools that you offering or you're suggesting the mom that you're working with? So instead of being in the intellect, be in the surrender.
It's first starting with patience and slowing down because we live in such a rushing, impatient world now, always feeling like there's something else I've got to do. But it may not even be anything, but it's just the sense that the world is spinning sometimes. And if you've had a birth that has been traumatic or you've been out of control, that energy of feeling out of control continues into the postpartum. So that's why I always encourage breastfeeding where possible, if you choose to do that, to be supported in that, because that's a meditation. That really slows you down. Put that phone away while you're breastfeeding, even.
I agree.
Especially at the beginning. Like just really connect, feel what baby's feeling, connect to baby, smell your baby, look at your baby, massage your baby, skin to skin, all of those things. Because sometimes I think when we have a newborn or a baby, there can be a disconnection. But this is actually your child. This is your experience. Yeah. Immerse yourself into that, especially in that first, few months.
Yeah.
It's a very big time of adjustment, and baby is adjusting. So, all of those suggestions of skin to skin, breastfeeding, sleeping, using a sling, keeping the baby close to you, can also repair the hormonal gap, which is what Dr. Sarah Buckley talks about. If you've had a traumatic birth and you didn't get to birth vaginally or baby was taken from you, you can bridge that hormonal gap by doing those things. And skin to skin is very beautiful. It's very powerful. And breastfeeding is too, if you can, or just bottle feeding skin to skin, bathing together, and if you do those things in that first few months, it can really help the next years. Yeah, the connection. Yeah. So don't be afraid to do all of those things and find support like what you're doing. You have the postnatal time is so important for women who've had these traumas and disconnect from their babies. It's really needed. I mean, it's sad in a way that we need that now too. That just shows how separate we've all become.
That we forgot.
That we've forgotten. And, in Byron as well, I was talking about the pregnancy support group, but we used to have postnatal group.
Really?
They were so all the women that we all had our babies within, say, a month of each other, then we would form the postnatal 0 to 6 month group. And then we'd all go together into that group. And then once the babies got to 6 months, we'd have the 6 month to 18-month group.
It's beautiful.
So
because we are longing for that connection,
Yeah,
we're looking for it.
Yes.
We want it.
Yeah, so we need a space, a physical space where we can come and bring our babies and have a day together each week. That really helped all of us. And we could talk about our sleep deprivation. We could talk about our relationship stuff. We could learn about the baby things, get advice off each other, and it was beautiful. And I'm still friends. My son's 28. Yeah. My boys are 25 and 28. I'm still friends with some of those women.
Amazing.
It was a very strong, bond.
Yes.
And I feel sad now that everything's online. But I think, years ago, I created with a beautiful girl, Cecile, French friend of mine. We were going to do the Mother's Centre. And we envisaged having the Mother's Centre on every corner in every suburb. And it was a beautiful house. And it was a place to come and have, those gatherings, prenatal, postnatal, and have, acupuncture, massage room, everything. But it was just called the Mother's Centre. Everybody loved the idea, but,
it's a beautiful idea. I think it's
wonderful.
the thing that we want and longing for as mothers.
Yes.
Especially mothers that lives overseas without their mom.
Yes, very hard.
For the connection with sisters,
Yes. Maybe we do one in Sydney. With you. A
More than
mother-centered.
happy to host it.
Yeah, like I just think because that's what we look for. And even if you've been a woman who hasn't really had women friends and been disconnected from women, sometimes after that first pregnancy and birth, all you are doing is craving to be with women, other mothers and wise older women. And we're all scattered everywhere now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as
It's
well, I think we sometimes hiding. I think
yes,
there is that period of the 6 to 8 weeks, which is a beautiful window. It's like a golden light around you and your baby and your family, where you should be nourished and heard and
yes,
healed and taking care of yourself. And then there is that time when you're longing to be surrounded by other moms that going through the same experience as you and speak with them about nappies and
yeah,
poo and
exactly.
about what you're eating and how you're sleeping and about your relationship and everything
Mm,
that you can't always talk about with the people around you that
yes,
don't understand you.
yes.
And
It reminds me, Yahav, I'll tell you a funny story quickly. This was in the prenatal time in the pregnancy group, and this is
mm,
it had evolved a bit because I taught in that group for 20 years. I
yeah,
taught in body birth, belly dance birth. But one day a woman was talking about expressing milk. So one of the doulas came to share. Every week we had a special guest or a special topic, and which I also see in the Mother's Centre to have a pregnancy group as well. But they were talking about expressing milk, and she had a book. And I was breastfeeding my daughter. I think she was maybe 2 or something at the time. And she's trying to show and turn the pages of the book and show everybody in the circle, all the pregnant mothers, this is how you express milk. And I was watching and I just thought, this is ridiculous. So I said, pass me that coffee cup. And one of the girls passed. And I pulled out my breast and I started to express milk into the cup. And the whole circle went silent. And I'm just going, and if you press down here and warm it up and, da da da.
mm,
And I looked up and everybody was just like, to
how did
see
you
a
handle
real
that?
breast with milk coming out of it. And they're all pregnant and they want to breastfeed and they just couldn't believe it. And afterwards came up to me about 4 or 5 and gathered around me and said, we have never seen a breast with milk coming out like that in real life. I said, well, that's what it looks like. This is what you're going to do. We may as well show instead of the knitted breast or the book, this is real life.
I show you what's happening.
I show you how to do it, actually how to do it. And yes, this is real milk filling up the they just, they realized they had the epiphany in that moment, how disconnected in many ways we are from, mothers, sisters, grandmothers, aunties, being around all of that. It's becoming more
Yes,
and more
yes.
common.
Because in our tribe back in the day,
Yes,
that's
yes,
what used to happen. And I
yes.
met a few weeks ago, I did a research in Fiji about how they birthing their babies and how they taking care of themselves in their postpartum.
Mm,
And when I spoke to them, they said to me, "Oh, our tribes, they still taking care of each other like the old way." So there is the mama, which is the midwife of the tribe, and she's showing everyone how to do things. She's taking care of them, she's birthing them, she's helping them, she's assisting them, and they're helping each other in the collective to
yes.
make things happen to each other. And
Mhm.
I said to them, "And what about you?" Because they were living in the city. They said, "Oh, we're not doing it.
Mm,
We are in the city, we're going to the hospital, and then that's it.
yes.
Whoever supports you. If you
Mm,
have the support, if not, you by yourself."
yes.
And when
Yeah.
I looked at them and we started to have the discussion, and they asked me how I birthed my baby, what I did in my postpartum, and they said to me, "Wow, that's amazing.
Mm,
That's exactly like my ancestors."
yeah.
And all of a sudden, there were something that helped them connect to
Mhm.
what they were missing.
That's right, because the memory is there. That's what I talk about, the womb wisdom. It lives in the body. The medicine lives in the body. But we have been conditioned, as I said before, to believe that the expert lives on the outside. So we do not trust ourselves. So this is a big repair that needs to happen. And it's happened, the disconnect has happened very quickly. It's happened, the fear and the disconnect. I have to say, my daughter was born in 2008, and they started to come down on home birth in Australia anyway. But, you know, she's 16. So really a rapid pace of fear over the last 15, 16 years, 2 decades. And it's collapsed so much of what we knew to be true. And it's taking the maternal voice out of the hands of women. And I say we do not value the maternal voice. If the doctor didn't say it, or the obstetrician or the midwife didn't say it, then it can't be true. This is where we've got to. So I think women are coming back. And what I've noticed at 62, Yahav, is a lot of the girls in their 20s are looking for us now. They're coming back. Yes, they're coming back. And, you know, all the work that I'm doing is becoming more popular now because these girls are looking, they're saying there must be something more than what we saw our mothers go through, you know?
And we want that something more. I spoke with my mom when I was pregnant with my first child, and she told me there were a few times that I just listened to the doctor and lay in bed and put my legs up. And I said to her, but Mom, I don't want to birth my babies like this. And she said to me, well, but you need to listen to the doctors. And because of the wisdom of my sister that was there to guide me and show me another way, and I met other beautiful women just like yourself that gave me that wisdom of there is another way. And when I started to learn, and I picked on whatever suits me and whatever aligned with me in each pregnancy and birth. And then I realized that's when I was whole. That's when I was really into that space of being me, Yahav, and birthing my babies in the way that I want to birth my babies.
Yes, that's right. And that's why you're doing the work that you're doing, because like myself, when you have birth in that power through that sacred portal, that rite of passage, that ceremonial knowing, you want to shout it out to all women. And that takes me to why I do what I do, because the bigger picture is the raising of that consciousness for humanity. That's why I do embody birth, because I know from the births that I've had, like you do, Yahav, I'm not speaking on your behalf, but I'm sure you also have this feeling, is that I want to tell the world the possibility that lives in birth. Yet nobody looks at birth as having that possibility of raising consciousness. There's all these other modalities, and men go to the moon and they sit in caves for years and do all, and women give birth. Nature has given us that consciousness to evolve the world away from war and destruction and greed and power into that love and connection and empathy. Birth shows us that path of love. And that is why I keep doing what I'm doing. And with all this, what's just gone on with the Palestinian, Israeli, all of this business, I say, my child is your child and your child is my child. That is what birth teaches us.
That's the purity, the essence.
Purity. I feel like crying, I almost say. Yeah.
Yes, it's beyond everything else.
And so then if we look at why isn't birth placed on that platform, that throne of love, why is it not there with women with their crown on and saying, I know what I am doing as a mother, the 9 words I talk about. I know what I am doing as a mother. I am revered and honored and valued. And look out at the world.
So powerful. I know what I am doing
as a mother. Yeah, I talk about that in my embody birth training. You know, we know what we're doing. Someone always trying to take that away from us. But imagine if society supported the maternal voice. Nobody wants to know about mothers. And so that's why I think we're getting robbed more and more. So the percentage of us who have gone through those portals is probably 1 or 2% in the world.
And it's
360,000 babies.
beyond, there is something amazing into
Yeah.
going through the
Yes.
birth and to going to postpartum that helping you with
Yes.
your matrescent experience, with how you unfolding as a woman, as a person, and how you're
Yes.
growing. And more than that, it's the connection with
Mm,
your kids, with your partner, with yourself, which is just growing with you.
that's right.
And
And
it's
then then you take that, and that is what you gift the world with. That is what the world is waiting for. The world needs the maternal voice and the maternal power and the maternal strength. And for me, now the grandmother essence,
Mhm.
menopause is another whole area, which I'm
Mhm.
9 years post-menopause, and it's the same thing as birth, numbing, disconnecting, not listening to the power of menopause and trying to take it through the medical pathway.
Mhm.
But it's the
My
same thing.
teacher always said, she said to us, when you taking care of yourself in the birth and the postpartum, you're taking care of yourself when you are in the menopause because you know already what you need to do to heal yourself, to recover, and to be in the balance
Mm-hmm.
again, because there is here in the menopause the same thing that your womb is going through. Your womb, in a way, stopped the period. Yeah, it stopped the way of reproduction. And you need to get to that closure
Mm-hmm.
of that essence that will be missing from your life and rebalance yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, yeah.
But what menopause is the liberation. I'm doing a lot on menopause at the moment as
Mm-hmm.
well because I'm doing work on sacred physiological menopause, which
Yeah.
is just a continuum of sacred physiological birth. But it
Mm-hmm.
is the rebirth, it is the liberation, because it is the deepest, darkest story of our womb. Because we could shed every month, and now no longer. Now we think, oh, I thought I've healed. Going to take you deeper. And most women are frightened to go deeper, and the society doesn't support that excavation into the deepest part of the womb. Another story, but it's the same energy,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's the same narrative and, conditioning coming at us. So it's a full spectrum experience, but menopause is the liberation. As you tasted in birth, you tasted the liberation
Yeah.
birth, and now this is the next deeper phase because it's the grandmother energy in the world to save our children's children's children.
Mm.
So we need to be grounded, earthed, strong, and walk in our power in menopause. And we are missing and lacking those women in society because we're all trying to be young and take this cream and that and the other. These marks are my scars of my warrior, what I've been through,
Yeah,
you know,
my experience.
experience. But I'm still healthy and strong. But it
Mm.
shows what I've been through, the tattoos of life's experience shown on my face and my body. And it's something to look
Amazing.
forward to.
I
Yeah,
think that's really powerful.
very. Yeah, yeah.
Would you like to share with us something that you found was useful for you in your postpartum period? What
Mm.
was that one thing that helped
For
you?
me, Yeah, for me, it's always the breastfeeding. I'm
Mm,
a big proponent of breastfeeding, and I just love that connection with my babies. I love nurturing them through the breast. I love that heart to heart connection, the skin to skin. Really, for me, it was what I was saying before, slowing down and really immersing myself in getting to know my baby. Who is this baby, this soul that I've brought to the world? And as you know, when you have 3 children or more, two, three, each one is different. Each one brings a different gift. But
Yeah.
to find out what that gift is, you have to slow down and be with them.
Yeah.
So I would never, ever take that from myself, that breastfeeding experience and that slowing down and really enjoying and immersing into that. There's no rush. There's nowhere to rush to. It's about really being in the now of the experience, in
It's
that meditative
really,
place.
yeah.
Yeah. And that helps with your oxytocin and your endorphins. It keeps going. I've breastfed for 12 and a half years all up, and I'm
Mhm.
really proud of that and glad that I have experienced the power of breastfeeding. And not all women can, and I understand that. Not all women choose to, but if you can and you want and be supported in that, it's a very powerful experience to get to know your baby, you know?
I
It's a,
agree.
yeah,
Breastfeeding was one of the most beautiful things that I did with my three girls. And the most beautiful about it was the fact that, like you said, I could connect with them. It was a meditation. I was fully with them in that moment. And and I think that generally to be with your kids, to just be,
yes,
not with your phones, not with your thoughts, but be with your
yes,
kids can teach you so much, can show you so much, can bring you back to the child within you, and can help that connection that you're building with them. You know, each time when they're coming from school, we have that ritual that mom is with you and we're doing things together. Like yesterday, we played on the couch and they were performing in a circus to me, and it was beautiful. And I
yeah,
laughed with them and enjoyed it. And I was their audience and they were doing their thing. And that's the essence of childhood,
mm-hmm,
you know, to
mm,
just be with them, but allow them to be.
yes, that's right. And also what we notice as a mother is that the more I try to pull away, the more I try to get away, the more they come at you. So
Mm.
having those rituals of even just a half an hour of real presence with your
Mhm.
child can save the next 3 hours because they've really felt you there with them and
Yeah.
engaged with them. So that attachment and that bonding continues. Yes, so valuable, so important. Yeah.
So, Ma, would you like to say any last words before we closing our session? Anything else that you like to share with our mothers?
Well, I would like to share, I don't know if I can share about my embodied birth. Like I've got
Yes,
a
of
beautiful,
course.
yes, I've got a beautiful 4 module 21 chapter embodied birth pregnancy and birth preparation program that's all online. Very beautiful. You can find that on my website. And I've also got an embodied birth training, a teacher training, a certified online teacher training. We
Mhm.
start the next one on March the 8th this year,
Amazing.
2025. We've still got places left in that, and that's for anyone anywhere in the world. So
Mhm.
you become an embodied birth teacher, or at least carry all of my work into your work. And it's been told to me that it's the missing link in childbirth education.
Mm.
So I've got teachers in Vietnam, in China, in Japan, the Philippines, all over the world. It's been amazing. And I'm still teaching as well, Taiwan as well, doing a training. So there's nothing quite like my training, a little bit all that you've heard about today. So we're taking a very different approach to
Mm.
birth and beyond. I also do consultations online, in person in Brisbane, and I have my beautiful book, Dance of the Womb, and I have a belly dance birth bundle as well online on my website. Um, Maybe going to Perth this year. I'm not sure. We might do a 2-day workshop in Perth.
Amazing.
We'll see if we can do that. And then I'm going back to Taiwan and China in June, July as well. Asia really loves my work. I think because of the connection to that energy work and the ancestry and the lineage and the natural ways. So I've had a lot of success in Asia. Mm. And I love the teaching in Asia. I love the women there. So yeah, get in touch with me, mahaalmusa.com or at Embody Birth International on Instagram as well.
And I'll
So
share as well everything
yes,
in
yeah.
our show notes so you can have the links and you can contact Maha for anything that you need for birth. And I am truly, really, from my experience, recommending it. It was a life-changing, and it really helped me to tune into that birth that I wanted for myself and my baby. So thank you so much, Maha. It's
Thank
amazing
you.
how an Israeli and a Palestinian can sit together and chat and
Must.
create life.